Well, the Nifty is about 12,000 and it's closed about 12,000 for the first time in 5 months. The last time we saw it remain above that mark was back in June. That was the 4th of June to be precise. And today we do have that closure. We've seen it advance for around 46 odd points. We have gains in Bharti Infratel. Sun Pharma, of course, lent some strength in the last half an hour. We saw gains in IndusInd Bank, Vedanta, Hindalco Industries, along with JSW Steel. And as you can see, a whole host of metal counters out there while providing that kind of support as far as indices are concerned. We, however, have weakness in UPL as well, and something that we are going to address in a bit. GAIL, Yes Bank, HPCL, along with the Hindustan Unilever, well bearing down on the indices. But it's a day when we've seen gains. In the broader markets, the advance decline ratio is in favor of advances. We do have nearly 3 gainers for 2 losers. Federal Mogul up 16%. JSPL, something that we will also talk about, that's up 10%. GM Financial, Max Financial Services, Indiabulls Housing Finance, a whole host of names out there which are advancing. On the losing end, we have weakness in Gujarat Alkalis, NMDC and Bajaj Electricals also wilting under pressure. Bajaj Electricals specifically on the back of earnings, as is the case for Lupin, which continues to be under pressure. Of course, Corporation Bank and BSF India, among others, declining in trade. But what do we make of these moves? Let's get in our markets editor, Neeraj Shah, for his thoughts on the markets and how things have panned out. Neeraj, what are you making of today's move?
Yeah, interesting day of trade, simply because banks didn't do what they did yesterday, which is lead the markets higher. Reliance did that in today's session. Banks were quiet. But I think it was more stock specific than anything else. I don't think we had too many of trends. So Sun Pharma, the reaction because of results. UPL, the reaction because of results. And we've seen that happening across the broad end of the spectrum too. And ties in, I think, with what me and you, Agam, were talking about it the other day, that if the market stays stable and doesn't correct too much, then you have this large scope of strong stock-specific moves, and a clutch of names which have done that, right? There is an Alcala Mines, which might not be a part of this list, but came out with numbers yesterday, saw an 8% uptick and saw a follow-up 8% uptick in today's session. Adani Transmission, very expensive stock, but the profitability in the revenues jumped, and the stock ending at the highest point of the day, up about 6%. So stocks which are gaining or showing good results are now starting to see buying. That positive reaction is coming, which was absent about a month and a half ago, where nobody wanted to touch the non-2025 stocks, which is actually a very good sign, broad-based.
Well, fair enough, Neeraj. Thanks for that perspective out there. So, well, of course, stocks moving on earnings. But, well, let's also talk about one other sector and perhaps one other stock in that sector, which has also been gaining off late. That's Jindal Steel and Power. And I'm going to get in Nikki Mirchandani to talk to us about what's aiding the stock as well as the sector. Nikki?
Well, for JSPL, typically it's been a sharp up move that you've seen, 10.5% uptick for the counter. It's double delight coming in for the company, given that earlier in the week also we saw some amount of developments, favorable developments rather, coming in for Gare Palma, that coal block being transferred in the favor of the company. And now this time around you have Sarda mining case, which apparently is looks like it's going to be in the favor of JSPL, and soon enough JSPL with this would be able to get away with the iron ore inventory to an extent of around 11-12 million ton, which has been lying in the Sarda mining mines. They can probably use that for production of steel, and that could be for a span of 1 year. Value to that extent is around 1,800 crore. If you look at the performance of how JSPL typically has done through the course of the week, also it's outperformed all the other steel counterparts. Apart from that, also the Nifty metal index as a whole, which has gained returns of around 6.5%. And look at JSPL, the performance there is splendid, 27% kind of uptick. What we essentially saw today was that there was a favorable judgment which passed with regards to the violation of the illegal mining case, where both the violation with regards to Rule 3 found that there were no violations whatsoever, and there were 3 mines involved with regards to that. JSPL Sarda mine was also related to it. Clearly a shot on the arm for JSPL, which also has reported a splendid set of numbers. So net, good show from JSPL.
They have grown by almost 84%, coming in at 7,817 crores versus expectation of 7,874 crores. So more or less in line when it comes to the top line. But here's where the whole mess starts, because the net profit is down 67% to 89 crore rupees versus expectation of 516 crores. Now this is mainly on account of a one-time exceptional loss of around 305 crores. Now this is what the company attributes to a loss in terms of a court case that they had in United States. So last month there was news that the company had lost a battle with a small agrotech company called Fresh Solutions, incorporated in US, with respect to a patent infringement litigation, and there, because of that penalty, they have been counting it into their exceptional loss in the current quarter, which has impacted their bottom line. Operationally too, the numbers were largely in line when you take a look at it on a sequential basis, but again on a year-on-year basis, the EBITDA has come in at almost 1,539 crore rupees versus expectation of about 1,600 crores, and margins are almost absolutely flat at 19.7%. One of the major reasons for this is that the raw material cost, raw material expense as a percentage of net sales, that has shot up by almost 540 basis points, and we've seen that across most of the other agrochemical companies as well, where we've seen that the raw material prices have increased because of the supply disruption in China, which has pushed up the prices. That apart, there was further pressure on the operational performance as well as the bottom line because of a forex loss of 92 crore rupees in the current quarter versus just about 6 crores in the previous quarter. So multiple factors, one-off expenses that have affected the bottom line as well as the operational performance. Sequentially, it's still mostly in line when it comes to their top line and EBITDA performance, but a big drop on the net profit, and we saw the stock close almost 8% lower.
Okay, fair enough. Yes, thanks for that. That's as far as UPL is concerned. And finally, we come down to a Nifty company which announced earnings in the last half an hour or 1 hour. That's Sun Pharma. Well, it ended the day with gains of around 3%. But let me get in Yatin Mota to talk to us about the numbers. Yatin, how was it looking?
So the shares, as you mentioned, ended the day's high. Markets excited. Of course, Darshan, was also talking about Taro numbers and how they were. Vis-a-vis, if you look at Sun Pharma, the parent of Taro, they have, seen a revenue growth of nearly 17% for the second quarter. Revenues coming at a little over 8,100 crores. As far as profits are concerned, the company saw a turnaround. A proportionate profit of 1,064 crores versus a loss of 300 odd crores year on year. Of course, last year, same quarter, there was this, Aditya Medi sales exceptional losses, because of which the base quarter is, in the red. As far as EBITDA is concerned, on an absolute basis, a 17% growth was seen then, and on a year-on-year basis, there was, some bit of better than expected improvement. 22% is where the margin figure stood at, as far as the second quarter is concerned. Of course, we'll wait for the management commentary in the analyst conference call, especially to do with the US specialty drug pipeline and what are the launches in the US market, because that is a key market for Sun Pharma, which has seen a flattish kind of a trend in the past few quarters or so. So let's see what the management has to really comment on the US business.
Okay, fair enough. Yatin, thanks for getting us those updates on Sun Pharma. So we'll be watching out for the management commentary on that. Some very important earnings. Well, today and tomorrow is going to be yet another day with a long list of earnings coming through. A lot of that from, the non-index large cap stocks. So we'll be watching out for that. And on that note, it's a wrap on the markets, but there's lots more lined up. Stay tuned to BloombergQuint.